Hello students, last class discussion was on handling multiple devices. In that we discussed about vectored interrupts and interrupt nesting. Hope the concepts are clear. So in today's class I am going to discuss the simultaneous request. So this is also a part of handling multiple devices here. Let us now consider the problem of simultaneous arrivals of interrupt request from two or more devices. Here, the processor must have some means or some mechanism of deciding which request to service first. So, using a priority scheme such as this implementation of interrupt priority using the individual interrupt request and the acknowledge lines. So, using this type of mechanism, the solution is straightforward, which can able to handle the multiple request in that it will decide which of the request to serve first. Here, the processor simply accept the request having the highest priority. If the several devices share one interrupt request line, then it has to decide a mechanism to handle those requests. So, polling the status register of the IO devices is the simplest mechanism here. So this is what one of the simplest mechanism, that is polling the status register of the IO devices. In this case, the priority is determined by the order in which the devices are polled or the devices are accessed. When the vectored interrupts are used, here we must ensure that only one device is selected to send its interrupt vector code. Here, a widely used scheme is to connect the devices to and also from a daisy chain. So, a daisy chain is one of the mechanism used here. In this particular scheme, so this is what the very widely used scheme here. And in this scheme, the mechanism is to connect the devices to form a daisy chain, which is shown in this particular figure. Here you can see how exactly the devices are connected to form a daisy chain. Means it will form a type of chain, so that you can name it as daisy chain, right? So devices are connected to form a daisy chain, which is shown in this figure. Then the interrupt request line, that is INTR. So this is what interrupt request line. So this interrupt request line is common to all the devices here. Then the interrupt acknowledger line, that is the INTA. So this is interrupt acknowledge line. So this INTA signal propagates serially through all the devices. So when the several devices raise an interrupt request and INTR line, that is a interrupt request line. So this line is activated, then the processor respond by setting INTA to 1. So this signal is received by the device 1. Then the device 1 passes the signal on to the device 2 only if it does not require any service. So if the service 1 has a pending request for the interrupt, then it blocks INTA signal and proceeds to output its identifying code on the data lines. Therefore, in daisy chain arrangement, the device that is electrically closest to the processor has the highest priority. Means in this mechanism, the device which is electrically closest means, for example, a device 1 is closest to processor. So in this case, a device 1 is having the highest priority. Then the second device along the chain that has the second priority. Then the third device is having the next priority, like this. So the scheme of this daisy chain, it requires considerably a few wires, very less number of wires than the individual connection. The main advantage of this scheme is that it allows the processor to accept interrupt request from some devices. Means of course, in one of the previous mechanism, there we have seen the disadvantage is the processor can able to accept only few request from few devices, but in this case the processor can able to accept the request from all the devices depending upon their priorities. So here we have studied two schemes, where in the previous scheme the processor can able to accept only some devices, whereas in DAISY chain scheme the processor can able to access the request from all the devices depending upon their priorities. So here we can combine both the mechanisms. So these two schemes can be combined here to produce a more general structure, which is shown in this particular figure. So as you can see in this figure, it is the combination of both the schemes, that is a DAISY scheme, DAISY chain scheme, as well as the previous scheme. So it is a combined scheme here. So in this scheme, the devices are organized in groups and each group is connected at a different priority level within a group. And within a group, the devices are connected in a DAISY chain. So this organization is used in many of the computer systems to handle the multiple interrupts. So this combined scheme is the preferable one to handle the multiple requests, because it is the combination of both the mechanisms, that is the previous mechanism and the DAISY chain mechanism. So this is what in detail of handling multiple devices or handling the multiple interrupt request from the multiple devices. The next concept is controlling the device request. So till now we have assumed that an IO device interface, it generates an interrupt request whenever it is ready for an IO transfer. For example, whenever SYN flag, that is SIN, that is one of the status flag here, SYN flag, one of the status flag. So when this flag is equal to 1, then the IO device interface, it generates an interrupt request. Means whenever SYN flag is equal to 1, then IO device interface generates an interrupt request. Here it is important to ensure that the interrupt requests are generated only by those IO devices that are being used by a given program. But the ideal devices must not allowed to generate the interrupt request, even though they may be ready to participate in the IO transfer operations. Only the active devices are going to generate, means they are allowed to generate the interrupt request, but not the idle devices. Hence we need a mechanism in the interface circuit of the individual devices to control whether a device is allowed to generate an interrupt request or not. Here the control needed is usually provided in the form of an interrupt enabled bit in the device interface circuit. The keyboard interrupt enable, that is KEN. KEN is keyboard interrupt enable bit. So KEN and display interrupt are enabled. It means that the keyboard interrupt enable, that is KEN, and display interrupt enable DEN flags in the register control, they perform this function. Means these two will perform this function, that is KEN and DEN, keyboard interrupt enable and display interrupt enable. So these two bits in the register control, so they will perform this device control mechanism, or they will perform this device control function. If either of these flags is set, then interface circuit generates an interrupt request whenever the corresponding status flag in the register is set. So corresponding status flag in the register is nothing but a status. So when the status is set to 1, then it will generate an interrupt request and it will handle, or it will control the device request. At the same time, the interface circuit sets the bit KIRQ or DIRQ to indicate that the keyboard or the display unit respectively is requesting for an interrupt. So if an interrupt enable bit is equal to 0, then the interface circuit will not generate any interrupt request irrespective of the state of status flag. So this is very important. So to summarize this, there are two independent mechanisms for controlling the interrupt request at the device end. An interrupt enable bit in the control register determines whether the device is allowed to generate an interrupt request. And at the processor end, either an interrupt enable bit in the processor status register or a priority structure it determine whether a given interrupt request will be accepted or not. So this is very important. So this is about controlling the device request. Now consider a processor that uses the vectored interrupt scheme where the starting address of the interrupt service routine is stored at some memory location. That is consider some memory location here. Now interrupts are enabled by setting to 1 an interrupt enabled bit RE in the processor status register, which will assume is at some bit. So a keyboard and a display unit connected to this processor have the status, control and data registers. Here assume that at some point in a program called as main, so we wish to read an input line from the keyboard and store the characters in successive byte locations in the memory. So starting at some location, right? To perform this operation using the interrupt, we need to initialize the interrupt process. So this is accomplished as follows. First is load the starting address of the interrupt service routine in the location, that is INTVEC. Consider that is what some starting location. So load the starting address of interrupt service routine in this location. Then load the address line in the memory location. Then the interrupt service routine will use the location as pointer to store the input character in the memory. Then enable keyboard interrupt by setting a bit in the register control to 1. Then enable the interrupt in the processor by setting to 1. Then the IE, that is interrupt enable bit in the processor status register PS. So we have to perform these actions here. I hope these actions are clear. One is loading the starting address of the interrupt service routine in the location, memory location. Then load the address line in the memory location. Then the interrupt service routine will use this location as a pointer to store the input character in the memory. Then enable the keyboard interrupt by setting a bit in the register, that is the control register, to 1. Then enable the interrupts in the processor by setting to 1. That is enable interrupt enable bit and the processor status register bit to 1. So once the initialization is completed, then typing a character on the keyboard will cause an interrupt request to be generated by the keyboard interface. Then the program being executed at that time will be interrupted and interrupt service routine will be executed. So this routine has to perform the following steps here, or some of the tasks it has to perform. One is read the input character from the keyboard input data register. So this will cause the interface circuit to remove its interrupt request. Then store the character in the memory location which is pointed by PNTR and increment the PNTR. Then when the end of the line is reached, then disable the keyboard interrupt and inform the program main, then return from the interrupt. So the instructions needed to perform this task are clearly shown here. So is it clear? So this routine has to perform these following tasks. I hope you can observe a different task here. One is read the input character from the keyboard input data register. So this will cause the interface circuit to remove its interrupt request. Then store the character in the memory location pointed by PNTR and increment PNTR. When end of the line is reached, then disable the keyboard interrupt and inform the program main, then return from the interrupt. So these are what some of the instructions needed to perform this task. So when the end of input line is detected, the interrupt service routine clears EN bit in the register control as there are no further input is expected. So it also set the variable EOL, that is end of line, to 1. So this variable is initially set to 0. So we assume that it is checked periodically by the program main to determine when the interrupt line is ready for processing. Here IO operation or input output operation in a computer system are usually much more involved than the simple examples. So this is just a program, or you can say it as using the interrupt to read a line of characters from a keyboard via different registers. So this is just a sample set of instructions to understand or to illustrate how to control the device request. The next important concept is exceptions. So exceptions I will take it in next class. Thank you.